Awesome teachings this all the time, especially this year is the 100th year yard site of the Rebbe Rashab, who's a Lubavitcher, three Rebbes previously, who wrote these amazing mimers, which are, just reading them, you journey into different realms. So what I want to do is share some backbone concepts that are needed to understand. They're like notes of a symphony, and he takes these notes and he creates these symphonies. And by reading and studying and sharing those learnings, it's like you're journeying through the higher worlds and experiencing how Ein Sof, how God's infinite light and love translates and goes down into these lower worlds. And this is really our purpose, is to be a conduit of this light, to bring light into these lower worlds. And we learn, especially from the Baal Shem Tov, that when he had an Aliyat Neshama, when Rosh Hashanah, his Neshama went up to Shemayim. He was sent down again. He wasn't again, but he had an amazing conversation with the Mashiach. What does it mean? He met the Yechida level of all our souls, the highest level, the communal level quarry of our souls. And he had this conversation. I'm sorry, okay. He had this conversation. He asked the Mashiach, when are you going to come? And he said, when these deepest teachings are spread out all over, that's when it's going to come. So this is just being part of this process of learning and sharing these teachings is bringing the light necessary to make a difference in our world. God willing, we will all eventually, very soon, share a new revelation that will end suffering and wars and all the things that we want to eradicate in the world, God willing. So with this said, this is I want to enter into some of these backbone concepts and see how they relate to our actual physical and spiritual health. And that will come full cycle. So when we're going to start with one of the first concepts. Again, we're just going to receive what we can receive. Believe me, I didn't understand everything I was learning. There's this concept of or makif. Some things just stay on a surrounding light, is called a level, until you're ready to be the vessel to receive the light. Even just reading the words is preparing your vessel so that you'll be able to receive even more deeper and deeper teaching. So even when in any Hebrew word I do say, I will translate immediately afterwards. But just knowing that the Hebrew language is a conduit of the most deepest divine energy, and that just hearing the language itself is part of the process of bringing the higher worlds into our lower world, making that yichud, that unification. Just knowing that, just rest aside that just hearing the words will be enough. But God willing, we'll do the most we can to also bring it into Or Panimi, an inner light one that we can actually grasp with our minds. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so one of the most awesome ideas is that the Kabbalah gives over who was Hashem, what was God doing before he even thought to create the world. That's an amazing concept. You think of God as a creator and that's it, but there's levels of worlds. In fact, it's called, the first stage is called Or Ein Sof, the unlimited light, okay? And there's actually 10 stages of Or Ein Sof. So by just learning about these, we're opening up ourselves to this process of how the paradox of all of existence, how infinity can be contained in finiteness. Okay, so let's start with just the first concept, Atzmut. Okay, Atzmut means essence. Before God even thought, these are mind-blowing concepts. To think of God thinking is even mind-blowing, right? But Atzmut is a very essential word. It really refers to God's absolute essence. He's referred to as neither something nor is he nothing. He is the absolute something and the absolute nothing. We have to know that we can only begin to understand this intellectually if we can embrace paradox, because it's all paradox. And that's the tikkun of our das, is the tikkun of our knowledge, is to like say, embracing things that just don't seem to be able to mesh. So this is Atzmut. When we talk about Atzmut, we're talking about the paradox of paradoxes. And he says even the primal thought of Adam Kadmon, we'll talk about Adam Kadmon soon, the thought which conceives of all creation at once, is consciousness that was a preconception of it, creation, cannot even know the essence of God, the Creator. Okay? So how does this relate to us? Atzmut is a very important concept. Two things. One, the most inner essence of our soul is not even created. It's one with our Creator. It's totally in Atzmut. There's the most inner essence of who we are is totally merged in divinity. And what is important about knowing this is that we learn with Rav Ginsburg has been teaching an incredible, enormous amount of material on Torah and psychology, and he says, and I know and I believe it and I've witnessed it, that when a person starts shifting their identity from ani, I, to ein, which is the same letters of ani, when switched around is ein, which is nothingness. This is shifting your identity to Atzmut, and from there all healing can come. It's the key to all of healing. It's a very deep thing. It's like, it's really about all healing can come from shift of consciousness. To then bring it down even more, what's amazing is that Atzmut has the same letters as Etzem, which is bone. Okay, so this is not up in the air. The essence of who we really are is in the depths of our bone. Like a bone is really a person's structure, right? And the bone is responsible for creating blood cells and creating like something from nothing. And this is another concept for healing, is that the truth is, the Kabbalah and also science, modern science, is proving that God is creating the world every moment. Yesh ma'ayin, something from nothing. So those two concepts together, Atzmut, getting in touch with your total essence, which is one with Hashem, one with every soul, being in the total unity, and meditating on the concept that everything is being renewed every second. There's limitless possibilities of healing. Okay, now how do we shift our identity to Atzmut? I mean, it's not an easy order, right? Like, ultimately there's going to be a shift, a permanent shift. Like Mashiach consciousness is like a light switch goes on and off a little bit. You can get a taste of it on Shabbat or a taste of it on Rosh Hashanah, but eventually it's going to be a permanent click. So we have to prepare ourselves for it, that we're going to just see each other and ourselves, our relationship with each other and divinity, Elokut, not totally, we're getting there gradually. There's going to be a real shift, and that's what we're aiming for. So what is this Atzmut, like consciousness, that we need to plug into? Like, so far what we said, it sounds like really important to do so, right? There's amazing potential in being able to do that. Okay, so Rosh Hashanah is coming. Okay, what do we hear in Rosh Hashanah? The shofar, right? And Rabbi Nachman talks about the first tekiah is bringing one back to that essence. It is the wordless voice. It's the primal. It's like beyond the primal scream. True tshuva is really returning to your true self. There's things you do on the way, you think of what you've done, you make a heshbon and nefesh, but beyond it all, cutting through all of your story is going back to your true self. And when you start identifying with Atzmut, you're living beyond your story. You know, a lot of us we have a very physical life. We have to take care of parnasa and, you know, all these physical needs, food, the right food, and the health. But this is all essential for our being, for our lives. However, like, there has to be a part of us that is not part of that story. You know, the drama, the life drama. And that's what getting to Atzmut is about. It's getting beyond our drama. A very special Rabbi Boyan in Bnei Brak gave over a beautiful Torah through a friend of mine, that in order to live in Gan Eden, in this world, you have to have no heshbon with anyone. Like, there's no things that you think about, what was said and what would do. The past, avar, the past is avera, the same letters of avera. Avera means a transgression. When we're really connected with Hashem, we're totally in the present, and we're like totally in awe of the essence of life and living. And this is really the gift of Rosh Hashanah, to be able to renew that connection, to always be in that state of the shofar. And and all the heshbonot are put aside, because, you know, ultimately it's all studio. It's all studio. May we always be on the consciousness to see that. But we have our tikkunim to do to get there. Okay. So, another idea about cultivating or accessing Atzmut is this level of dom, to be quiet. Dom l'Hashem v'hitalel lo. In that pasuk, it's going into total silence. It's a silence of just waiting. It's beyond prayer. It's getting to this place of just being, essence, Atzmut. Okay? And the ability to do that is very good for your bone marrow. And if we're having trouble with, God forbid, Hashem, we should all be healthy, but we're having trouble, we have to go into where our consciousness is, where our minds are at. Okay? So there's a lot of inner work to do to bring ourselves into true health and balance, God willing. And we're going to talk about that more in detail. But first I want to go through some of these, more of these stages. I'm not going to go through all the stages, because this is a work in itself. But we just tasted Atzmut, okay? So after Atzmut is the level of Yachid. And Yachid refers to the essence of God's infinite light as it's concealed within Atzmut, before it becomes even revealed to himself, as it were. That's mind-blowing, that God's Ein Sofness has not been yet revealed to him. Like, there's these stages of consciousness. Again, let's put our intellect aside, of evolvement before in preparation for the worlds that we live in.